welcome. I am delighted to have with me today Mr. Ben Madden of Fine & Country. How are you?
I'm very good, sir. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm really, really good. Looking forward to catching up with you later in the year at certain events, Agents Giving, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So,
well, I mean, we might as well just have 10 seconds on it. Remind me, what have we got planned?
So we are Agents Giving, Agents Got Talent or lack of talent there.
Lack of, yeah.
Aren't we doing the Spice Girls, but in this case, Spice Boys performance?
I think we are. Pretty special. That's going to be.
And performance is what it's going to be. It's going to, as you said, what did you say? That it's the dancing that's going to win it for us.
I think you might have misheard me. My connection isn't great. I think I said something about the outfits. I'm certainly not sure about the dancing. Look, you know, we do what we do. We'll base it all on personality, which guarantees we lose. You know, I'm there for that.
But will be remembered infamously forever. And I do. The fact that we're into, what is it, almost into May, and we haven't actually met up yet, should fill people with a due sense of dread.
Strong performance from the lads.
And that's what's sticking with. But okay, good. So Rex will be delighted we've kicked off on that level. You know, here for a really serious conversation about the joys of the Rex CRM software. Just so we get an understanding, Ben, of your business there, apart from the fact you are multi-award winning, which of course is why I latched onto you in the earliest stages. I saw you on stage there. You've got the Fine & Country license for Chiswick, West London, Fulham and Teddington. Is that right? So
right, yeah. So not to be confused with a franchise. Fine & Country license. We have had the that's the touchy subject for the Fine & Country family. But yes, we are based in West London. So the Chiswick franchise we've had for 5 years in May. Yeah. So far so good. Really interesting, fun business to be in. If you've been in agency like I have for 20 years. Yeah. Pivoting across to the high-end stuff is really interesting and it sort of, you know, reignites the flame. And then we've got Fulham, which is in South London, Teddington, which is just slightly further out. So our territories are all nicely connected. 10 of us covering what is 13 postcodes. But for anyone who doesn't know, the Fine & Country proposition is sort of the premium end of the market. So it's not about volume. So 10 people covering that area works quite nicely.
Yeah, that prime part of the market, and that's where we're going to come on to in a minute, isn't it? You need to, the expectation levels when you're servicing that part are off the scale, aren't they, in terms of what you need to make sure you're delivering for your clients? Yeah,
I mean, I our old business, I exited a business a couple of years ago, sold to Leader Romans Group, and that really was our award-winning business, if you like. And not that it was about the awards, it was about the people and having loads of fun and doing great business. And we built up something that I think was quite special. And I thought we'd really nailed the customer service piece. And it's only really when you come away from that mass market, high volume model, are you really able to get your head above the parapet and appreciate there is another level of service you can offer? And I feel for those agents that are in that don't get me wrong, I loved it. The volume piece is fun. It's where there's energy and activity. But it's so difficult because of the culture in this country around agency, around service meets its fee, meets its sort of consumer sentiment piece, means you're always on to the next one. Yeah. And so, yeah, the high end sort of the market, it's just a little bit more time to get above the parapet, find different ways of doing things, different offerings, increase touch points, a real extreme focus on the quality of marketing and communication. So, yeah, enthusiastic, passionate, enjoy it, yeah.
That's brilliant. So do you remember, I mean, so Rex obviously have been making their name steadily growing over here, as obviously having come from Australia, where they've got a massive, obviously, market share in a business that has built up over a number of years. But do you remember why you first started using Rex and really what attracted them, attracted you to them in the first place?
Yeah, so, I mean, from a background perspective, I do a lot of my learning. I'm sort of obsessive learner because I guess I wasn't at school, and so maybe I'm trying to balance that out. I do a lot of looking at what they do in North America, a lot of viewing what they do in Australia. I think they've, from a lead generation perspective, I think North American agents have really got their finger on the pulse. And then from a marketing perspective, I think what the Australian agents do, not all of them, of course, but they've got some really great examples. So just from watching both those markets, you pick up different bits and pieces, and it might be about software or a way businesses use software. As it happens in the case of Rex, it was just, in my opinion, a very good salesperson doing what good salespeople should do, and that's making themselves relevant in a wider marketplace. So Mark, who's head of sales over at Rex, you know, I didn't see this a lot actually in other CRMs or models, but he's very present on LinkedIn, offers some value, some decent content, some great ideas. He opens up dialogue, and actually that's how the dialogue started with Rex, not because I was particularly familiar with the CRM, but I was more familiar with Mark and what he was doing. So I'm a massive advocate of that type of sales, be a lead magnet as opposed to hunting everything down aggressively. So that's how Rex ended up on our radar.
So the things that impressed you about ostensibly those markets, and I concur with everything you said there, having been lucky enough to experience both of those markets, you know, what the marketing and the fee that they get allows them to do that through the vendor paid advertising. But it was those elements that attracted you to actually the agents over there is what got you obviously to Mark as well. And I mean, I can see that he certainly, his approach was very, very different, I think, from most of the people in the industry at the time.
Yeah, I think, it's, I mean, completely I appreciate this is a podcast about Rex, but culturally, you've got to look at what the agents in Australia are doing. And, you know, a good example for me is Purple Bricks landed really aggressively in the UK and were able to steal a march and grab a market share really, really quickly. Yeah. This is not me bashing Purple Bricks. This is me saying massive respect. You're able to infiltrate an industry and completely reframe the conversation to allow you to charge a different pricing model. Yeah. I've got massive respect for that. And their marketing campaign, for me, one of the best in the last 20 years. I mean, it's so clever. I know agents hate it, and I'm an agent who shouldn't enjoy it, but so clever. They try to do the same in Australia, and the culture in Australia is such that this low fee model is not going to bang here. We are about marketing. We're about quality service.
From memory, it didn't even last 6 months, did it? It was really... No. And what was fascinating there, I don't know if we have spoken about this separately, but when we were over there, because we opened my previous company over there and we were talking to them, I almost wanted Purple Bricks to really succeed there, because there was an absolute, there was an absolute confidence, and I thought a little bit of arrogance that they said it just won't possibly work. And I thought, oh, that's all well and good. I remember people saying that over here, but they were absolutely consistent with that they never deviated from obviously the quality of service that they were providing, that model couldn't exist there. And I think it shows a lot that it actually did. But I think you're right, that combination. Well, look at what you've managed to do. You managed to have a brand as fine in country, but Ben Madden himself is a personal brand in itself. And that has to be the way people are going further forwards, aren't they, with businesses, I think.
I think so. I mean, I think so. Yeah, sort of looping back to Mark, that's exactly what Mark managed to achieve. Mark, in the digital world, was a brand to himself that I ended up communicating with, and that's pulled this deal together. And he's a representative of Rex. But absolutely, the future of I guess sort of marketing, it's maybe not quite the right term, but the world is evolving at such a rapid pace. What worked 6 months ago already is not exactly where it needs to be right now. You know, if you look at the world of digital marketing in the last few years, obviously obscene changes. I'm not even getting sucked into the conversation about AI. I'm just talking about how the algorithms might vary on a day-to-day basis. For 40 years, a billboard looked like a billboard. You know, it was what it was. And now you find a way to replicate that piece of content for the digital world in 3 to 6 months. Is not going to be as relevant as it was today. So, yeah, I think the thing you will always have is your beliefs, your brand, your personality, who you are. So if your content's always built around that, then I think it's a great place to start. But you've constantly got to be refining how you deliver that message. We're doing loads of it in our business at the moment. And it's a little bit like a Rubik's Cube. You can get lost in it. Sometimes you've got to pull the trigger and have a go and see what works. And we've done some of that, and it's worked quite well. But yeah, it's the personal brand piece. Sounds really cheesy, doesn't it? But yeah, it's massive right now.
But you can't ignore it, can you? And just from the software's point of view as well, I mean, obviously CRMs are by definition meant to be the foundation of any kind of, any business. They join together so many different packages. Do you remember what the actual key strengths were that you saw in the Rex software and what it's delivered for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I remember really distinctly why we liked Rex, and it was it was a word that was sort of banned from our old business. I didn't used to be a big fan of automation.
Yeah.
I believe in a personal touch. And actually in this specifically finding country, for anyone who's current, in our world, there's a distinct lack of automation because we're low volume and so we shouldn't need it. But actually, if you're going to build your business and build pipeline and build into the future, once you've built a significant database, that's where the gold is. We all know that the value is in your database and the automation and running and looking after that and nurturing that database. So for me, we looked at a couple of CRMs. I think a big piece was that I got on well with Mark. You know, we all know sales is about people, and that worked really, really well. But their automation piece and how you could build that into managing your database. And I think more specifically, you know, there's lots of send newsletters. There's lots of that style stuff out there. Yeah. But what Rex allows you to do is create content, create communications that feel very natural, very real. Yeah. We're currently integrating WhatsApp into Rex. So we've there was already a partnership with Stitch, which is a WhatsApp communication piece. Mm-hmm. They've already partnered with Rex, so we're just tapping into that. And for me, that's huge. You know, I was known for being a bit of a taskmaster, might be the way, with the phone. Get on the phone, make the calls, hit the dials. That's where the money making. You know, that's where the love. That's where the volume. That's where really I was going to start swearing there. That's where the good stuff happens. And you know what? Actually, the quickest salesperson who ever had capped a promotion in our old business, she was the worst for the dials, but she was the best on WhatsApp because the world's changed ever so slightly. People are communicating in that form. So that's massive. You know, Rex has got things like Zapier where you can partner up and very, very easily integrate different product offerings, which I'm a bit of a tech geek, so that's good for me. WhatsApp, I think, is going to be a game changer for our business because we can mass communicate. We can mass send out video market updates, which is such a small thing, but I love a video market update. Yeah, and why I love the idea of mass communicating that to our database via WhatsApp, it's because everyone's going to watch it. Yeah. And once they've watched it, they're going to show someone and they're going to talk about it. And it's a really, really simple thing, but Rex allows us to do that. Rex is, they call them tracks, communication lines. Yeah. Back to the digital marketing and the personal branding, that's really labor intensive. If I'm going to create that content on a daily basis, I need to make sure that I can press a button and the automation looks after the more traditional communication. So they're the sort of reasons why we thought Rex was the right partnership for us.
That's amazing. So there's a couple of things there that jump out at me. First of all, your point about, yes, if you were looking at this transactionally and you're looking about the amount of listings an average agent has, the amount of sales, you wouldn't think actually there's much call maybe on the lettings and account side of things where there's loads more processes. But the actual truth of the matter is to get that funnel down to those level of listings at the end of the day needs you to hit literally thousands of people, doesn't it? And that's where the automation does come in, because if it's the difference between nurturing tens of thousands or even more than that and doing that effectively and most importantly in a more personalized style, that's absolutely vital. And again, the only, email is becoming a much more difficult medium to get engagement on. We all know the battle of the inbox these days. Now, the only thing that absolutely wiped the floor with, and still does, obviously, was text messaging. But the only other thing that outperformed, obviously, engagement on text messaging was in WhatsApp. So to stay ahead of the game in terms of that famous phrase, omni-channel marketing, is where you need to be at, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's, we use language like we want sort of to reach a saturation point in terms of communicating with our database and the wider marketplace, which in essence, we're trying to turn into our database. Yeah. A lot of the marketing activities we do are long tail stuff. We know that some of the marketing initiatives we run are going to generate opportunities for a valuation. They're not in the market right now. I just want a name, a number, an email, and I want to be able to keep in contact with you for the next 5 years, because at some point, and I know a lot of agents might be thinking that's a lot of work for, and this is not a brag, but if the average sale price in the UK is £20,000, the average sale price in our business is 2 million. So the incentive is slightly different. And so it makes sense for us to put that effort in, but actually utilizing Rex, there's a lot of effort at the front end. That middle piece where we stay in communication, we can automate a huge chunk of it. Whereas in our old business, we used to do 45 to 90-minute prospecting sessions every day, the entire sales force. That's a lot of labor, to make those calls. And we all know 50% of the calls aren't even being answered if you're lucky. So, for me, it makes sense. And as I said earlier, I'm very anti-automation, or I was, but now there's huge value in it if it's done really, really well and it feels personal.
But the only reason that one of the key things is, as you kind of highlighted there, is lots of people forget these do more than ever before what they do less of. they do less of actually phone calls, don't they? And there is a propensity, not just for people in our businesses agency, to actually make less calls, but actually the public are using this more as a pager than ever before. So if you're, to deal with that dynamic there, yes, automation and nurturing is about making sure that you are there for the right conversation, the most dollar productive, again, overused phrase, but true, rather than just doing the nurturing from a phone call point of view. So it's just about a much better, clever use of that. I think the other thing you just touched on there is I remember Alexander Phillips, whose office turns over 13 million a year in Australia, the top performing prospector there. And he came over and spoke, and he said, he'd been around a few of the best UK businesses over here, and he was absolutely stunned at the way that every single one of those viewed so many of the leads coming in off the portals as absolute tire kickers. And he said, we absolutely, over there, their version of Rightmove, realestate.com, we see every one of those as future goal, because, yes, some of them might not be transacting now, but if we can stay in contact with them at literally no effort to us, it might be 18 months, it might be 2 years or beyond that, but we've got an advantage to every other agent who gives up after a week. That's kind of a game-changing difference, isn't it?
I subscribe to the exact same thought process. If I could change one thing, it would be starting an agency earlier, so I've got more data. That's all I want, is the data for us to nurture. In this little business that we've got here, low volume, 10 people, 13 postcodes, our database is not great. Whereas at the old business, we had 70,000 records. It was a gold mine. So much of our business came from managing that database. It was such a manual process back then. I don't know if I said it earlier on. I like video, not like being on video, contrary to popular belief, but I think a 30 to 60 second market update.
Yeah.
Weekly might be intense if you're not in communication regularly with someone, but monthly, I think genuinely holds enough value for someone to say, yeah, I'll watch that next month.
Yeah.
Even if I've got no interest in selling, I've just, what's happening in the local market? And if they see my face once a month for the next 3 years, I guarantee I'll get the call when they want that valuation.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it.
I think it's fascinating on that basis. I mean, I always believe that, you should be doing loads of this stuff yourself, but you've got to have video market updates in there as part of the nurture mix. And far be it for me to plug it, but David Mins, my colleague, obviously he does that monthly market update for our members. And, people like Simon Bradbury used to give us feedback when he was at Thomas Morris. Every single time he sent it out, 60, 70 clicks on the whole, book evaluation element there is. It's like, doesn't matter whether you're going to do it yourself, whether it's professionally, whether it's guerrilla off your phone, but it's got to be in the mix. Otherwise you're leaving stuff on the table. And I think your point about the database as well is absolutely spot on. Australia's other famous import, Mr. Josh Fegan, he's been banging that drum for years, isn't it? All the business you will ever need in terms of an established business is there within your, well, he would call it your database, ready to do it. But it's amazing how people are so quick and ready to invest in all manner of kind of prop tech marketing schemes where they can't even guarantee if they've actually gone back to past clients and people within their own database.
Yeah, it's shiny, it's silver bullet stuff. That solution, without sounding sort of cynical, solves a problem that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
There isn't a problem, except maybe people don't like being on the phone as much as they used to, and maybe you're beating the same drum, get on the phone, and maybe you need to alternate or switch up the medium for the messaging. But as I said, if I could have more data, for me, that's the game changer. If you're some of our competitors, as all across the country, have been in this business for such an extended period of time, and everyone's got an example of this in their market. The guy that's been open for 50, 60, 70 years, they're not that great at marketing. They're not that sharp, but they get all the business because they've been around for so long. They've got that database and that relationship. That's what I'm trying.
It is interesting there, Ben, that those very people that, because of their experience and let's say longevity, the ones who have the tools, as in that data, perversely, a lot of the time aren't the ones that are going to use it there, because this is the way we've always done it, and they don't feel the need to change. Now, there is that wonderful halfway house, or the best of both worlds, where you're going to get just some wonderful stuff happening. Yeah,
I think the most frustrating agents that that agents come up against are the guys that have been around for a very long time. Their service, standards are not great. They charge a low fee, and you think, you've got the basis of something really special here. If you applied a little bit more effort, I don't know, utilized a bit of tech, thought about training your team, you could charge an appropriate fee, you could have a wonderful business. But yeah, those that, we've always done it that way. God syndrome, I know best, pale male stale, don't tell me what to do. From our perspective, it's frustrating, but it's also where all the opportunity sits, for our business.
I thought you were using all my favorite keywords about me there. Pale, male and stale, God complex. These are all Simon Whale similarities. So just ask is obviously whenever you go in with any prop tech business, but especially I suppose the bigger ones like CRM obviously naturally is, there's always things that jump out at you and surprise you. What was it? Do you remember anything that did surprise you about Rex in particular?
I guess it's not necessarily, surprised is, I'm a bit of a stoic, so getting that reaction out might probably be a bit tough, but there were things that I liked that maybe we hadn't had at our previous CRM. So a small thing that, in hindsight, everyone should be offering it, but the Rex app. So whilst you're on the move, you are on the move, you're fully connected.
You're that mobile warrior that people talk about that, many people don't have the ability to do.
Yeah, wildly frustrating for the team to have to use their phone to log into a website to get into their CRM. I think that's sort of like feels like teletext to me. But that's a nice sort of service level upgrade. The diary piece is stronger again in the Rex system versus the system we previously used. But the standout thing that at the time of being presented to was able to build newsletters into Rex, so we don't need a third party piece of software for that. So we can send well structured, beautifully structured and built newsletter campaigns to the database, which previously we used a third party, and that can get quite expensive. And that being unnecessary was great for me. And Zapier, just because I've become a bit of a geek about the different things you can do. And as it happens, I'm not quite geek enough to do it myself, which is quite frustrating. But at least it's got the ability for us to patch things in as and when we want, and we find someone to do it for us.
Well, just let's touch on that, because obviously for those people that aren't aware, obviously the pseudo geeks like your good self and certainly me. So Zapier is essentially what they call a bit of middleware that enables integration, and it's out there in the wider world doing it. And what's game changing about that is it means that then, as I understand it, Rex is no longer the gatekeeper as so many suppliers are these days. They're not. They're all getting much better these days, but you don't get that Caesar says yay or nay, do you? Approach there. They're providing the platform by being able to integrate, and so that ultimately, with a tech stack that many agents have, our stats show that on average people have 23 different suppliers. That provides and that's just by the way estate and lettings agency ones, and it's always amazes. But that gives you the potential to actually have a tight tech stack, doesn't it? At the end of the day, at least the potential to deliver on that. Whereas everyone else, I always say, it's more like a Jenga pile waiting to kind of topple over if you take one brick out.
Yeah, I think we talk about automation and speeding things up and being sort of more efficient, which allows us to be more effective. But if you're having to enter details 3 times into 3 different pieces of software, what's the point in having automation if you're asking someone to do the same job 3 times? So, yeah, for me, joining the dots, we've really only scratched the surface of what the system can do. But I think looking towards the future, sort of future-proofing our business, I think tech is going to become even more important in the world of agency or in the world in general. We haven't really, we use AI a lot, but not in partnership with Rex. I say a lot. I don't think we use it a lot. And then I was in a meeting last week, and I sort of talked about 8 or 9 things that we use regularly, and everyone else was maybe using one. So maybe we do use it a bit more than others. But I think that's going to have a big impact on how we do business in the future. So, for instance, Open API, which back in the old days, I say the old days, a couple of years ago, didn't mean a great deal to me, other than someone's going to have to pay to make these 2 things work together. And where from what I've seen, the Zap system sort of makes it a bit more cost effective. And so that's exciting for the future, because in the next few years, I'm going to sack my entire team and run it via AI.
We just don't let them see this then. Okay, that's They're all too busy anyway, and obviously the AI is going to take us and destroy us all. But in the meantime,
Well, of course,
it'll be glorious. I think the other thing about Zapier is, of course, is there are 1,000,001 different, exciting companies outside of property world there. If they are integrating with Zapier, there's going to be a fighting chance of it integrating much better. So that AI avalanche, and it is an avalanche, isn't it? You don't want to be under that when that happens, is another big tick. I think the second one, though, just going back, if you're looking at the fundamentals, I always refer to them as the kind of holy trinity of prop tech. Your CRM has to be ostensibly the foundation for your business. Your website is the company brochure to your business as well. And then, it used to be an email, but let's just call it a nurture system there is. Now, in any really well-run business, those, they don't always have to be the same business, but they do need to have really, really tight integration. I would estimate that probably 95% of agents at the moment don't have even that level of benefit. What you've just highlighted there, by having the ability to do the newsletters and the nurturing bit inside one package, is again, is probably only 1% of agents have that facility at the moment, which, when you think about it, it's the only logical place to really fit, isn't it? It should be. And I think that's one thing, when I saw the Australian businesses, maybe they started off like that, and that's the reason why, but it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting you use the word fundamentals, because I've read something. I do a bit of a geek, send out the team a daily sort of start the day video, and today was talking about the fundamentals and how the fundamentals get missed so often because they're boring, they're simple, they're monotonous, and people take them for granted. And then you apply a bit of hindsight and you say, what's going on here? Why don't all CRMs handle database management? Surely that's bread and butter stuff. But you're absolutely right. Not using one system to manage the data and market to the data or nurture the data. If I was to go, if you go back in time 10 years and we had a marketing team at our old business, this would have made their life so much easier. So much easier. Right now, it's just me running around like a blue-ass fly. But at some point.
By the way, great name for a marketing business, that blue-ass fly.
Yeah, not a bad shout. Yeah,
purple cow and all that sort of stuff. And okay, we've spoken about the tech, and clearly you being a better level of techie as well. That I think that shows that again, Rex will be very pleased that they're able to make what I expect is your high standards. But so often people forget about actually that you need to very few tech solutions work straight out of the box. So then the onus is on how well does the company deliver in terms of the service of enabling you and maybe less tech enabled people than you within your business. So can you just talk us through how did they help out there? What was the onboarding like? What's the after service in terms of training and account management? Just that kind of people person element, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So look, I guess the real litmus test is that the transition from our old software to our new software happened when I was on holiday in the middle of last summer. And as I said, we're a small business. Well, you can't make this up. There were some delays, and not on Rex's side, and it caused some issues. And when you're a month out from the holiday, you turn to your mate and say, "This is going to bite me. This is going to happen exactly when I'm not here, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And because we're a small business, we are in essence a business of, there's 10 of us.
Yeah.
One is the videographer, one is sort of head of admin and conveyancing, and then everyone else is in production. So they're estate agents. So they're not operational guys. They're not guys and girls that are coming in to make CRMs work and get the data across. They need to be able to use an easy system. So I'm having nightmares a week out from my holiday thinking, I'm going to be on a beach trying to make a CRM work as we transition over. This is going to be a disaster. Firstly, the data extraction. I think Rex are a big firm now. They're well known in the world of agency, and so because of that, they've won business from existing sort of CRMs. And so they'd run this data exchange before. They've got some experience, so that part went really, really well. I've done that before in a past life, and it was a disaster. It was horrific with another system. So that was firstly a massive tick. And then whilst I was away in the first week. The second week, the managing director from this business and the head of admin joined us on that holiday. And that's when the data was moved across. And so there was a 48-hour window where it was all hands on deck. And then after that, pretty smooth sailing. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, there are always niggly things that need to be addressed.
Yeah, of course.
But so there's a couple, you're given someone who manages through the entire process.
Yep.
And actually we still, we have 6-week catch-ups with her.
Yep.
That was so initially she was very on hands to anything we needed.
Yep.
And then of course, once you get a bit more familiar with the system, that pulls back. So we said, can we set up 6 weekly meetings, because we want you to stretch us really. If we're not using something in the system, talk about it, let's look at implementing it. So we have that every 6 weeks, which we've never had at any other CRM. We've also got an account manager who's on hand to help with different things. So that account manager helped us turn off a different piece of tech we were using, and streamline what that tech did into Rex. That was a nice, smooth process. Yep. So yeah, I would say the support is good. We haven't had any issues with getting support. In fact, sometimes we'll get double communications from people to help. So far positive. There was one issue where I think Rex believed the system did a certain thing, and they discovered after we'd onboarded that it didn't do what we thought it did. And so they held their hands up and said, that's our mistake. We're going to get that addressed. And they addressed that, which was quite an undertaking for them. So yeah, from a service perspective, pretty strong.
That's quite important though, isn't it, Ben, really thinking about, that ability to hold your hands up there, rather than be covered in fluff and people's kind of, hide behind it. As long as they actually still deliver on it, I've always loved that approach where people can hold their hands up and admit where they've gone wrong.
I think that's where you build loyalty, isn't it? Anyway, if life's easy and you do a great job, it's got to be really, really extreme for me to mention it to someone. But when you make a mistake and then you fix it, where we're so used to poor service in this country, you're not used to that. So that's something for me to now shout about. Yeah. That you guys have actually gone out of your way to resolve an issue that it was your fault, but there's no ill feeling now because you've addressed it. So yeah, for sure.
That's and that point you were talking there is so often the overused phrase software as a service, but so many companies seem to forget the second part of that as a service there. So it's lovely to hear that they are kind of delivering on that. And look, it's relatively early days, and I'm just hitting you with this on the fly, so no worries if not. But are there any kind of productivity or ROI results that you can talk about from actually using Rex? Do you measure? Are you able to measure that, or
we can at the moment? We're still a manual. All our metrics are measured manually. We don't plug into the Rex data system because we've already got works really, really well. Don't get me wrong. At some point, I guess it's a process of transitioning certain things. So gradually, we'll turn off what we do here, and everything will end up in Rex. In terms of return on investment, I would say I've got no metrics, no data, nothing to support specifically, but anecdotally, the team are considerably more efficient in their day-to-day activities. So anecdotally, the prospecting call-outs have gone through the roof. We're speaking to more people. We know that for a fact. We monitor all of our call logs, and so we know that conversations have increased because we're able to make more dials, because the system works in a more effective way. But other than that, I don't want to embellish.
That's really, really cool to understand that as well. And look, last couple of questions, and thanks again so much for your time here. What advice would you give to anyone who was just about to go live with Rex? I think it's really important that we kind of get the feel. What would you have done differently, whether that's down to yourself or down to them, that would have probably improved the process of going live? What kind advice can you impart to somebody else? Apart from not going on holiday, the principle.
I mean, the holiday is a thing. Yeah, the holiday is definitely on the list. I would say one issue we have in our business is that I am the sort of techie guy, but I'm not in production, so I don't need to use Rex on a daily basis, and that's probably held us back the last 9 months. Okay. If I was on Rex every single day using it and not doing sort of what's my traditional role, I think we'd be getting more out of it quicker. So I think it's really important, and the way we do it is maybe not enough, actually, to be fair, is we must get feedback from the people that are using the system, and anything that doesn't work exactly how they want it to, take that straight to Rex, rather than, it just doesn't do what I want it to, and accepting that. What it probably means is you're just not using the system quite right, and there is a way to find that, ask the right people, and that would be my major piece of advice, which I think for most agents, most, I guess, small independents, everyone's on the system. But I guess with the the growing brokerage model, you might find the head office team are a little bit disconnected from what the guys
I get that.
in production are doing. That'd be my major takeaway. That I think if we'd have addressed that, if I'd have said for 3 months, I'm going to go back to being an agent for 3 months, I think we'd be further along.
That's fascinating. That's really, really good. So just finally, so obviously it sounds like you're a big fan of it. Overall, we've heard, how you obviously clearly rate them. Obviously this is obviously testimonial, but we'd love to obviously add it as a review as well. How would you rate Rex out of 5 stars based on what they've done for you with you to date?
From a service perspective, I would give them 5.
Yeah.
From us using the system, I would give us a 4, and that's not a reflection of them; it's a reflection of us. I think so Alice, who's head of administration, looks after conveyancing. One of her tasks this year is to, in essence, become a Rex superstar, if you like, and really dig into everything that happens in the back of the system. That it's probably almost not Rex's responsibility to tell us these things are there. We want to see what more we can do with the system. But from a service perspective, which is generally where I would land, it would be a 5.
That's amazing. And assuming obviously the competition aren't watching this, I assume, would you be recommending this to other agents then to have a look at them if they're?
Yeah, and I have done. Try not to end on a miserable git note, but I used to say that a CRM is always, it's a 7 out of 10 tool. I don't get excited about it. If you're at a 7 out of 10, just be happy. It's doing what it needs to do. You're muddling through. This is better than a 7 out of 10. I think once we've been using it for a year or two, I'll be able to give you a really high score because we'll be fully ingrained. But look, there are great systems out there, but I think it's the new era maybe of different systems, different way to look at things, different models need different way of operating. I would absolutely recommend certainly doing the demo, see what you think.
Well, look, I always have to say this, but it's so good of you to spend your time, obviously, to give this advice. Choosing any system, especially a CRM, is quite often a leap into the dark. So to be able to give your honest feedback on it is truly appreciated. I look forward to catching you. I will hold you to that. We'll do a year-on-year kind of check-in to see how it's developing, and I think that's a sign of how people keep delivering. And I think it goes without saying as well. Obviously, don't forget us if you are looking at changing your CRM software, but any software, jump on a call with us, and we'll try and give you the best advice as well. But for today, Ben, thank you incredibly for giving us that wonderful feedback on Rex.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for having me.
See you at the dancing.